Let's look at the marketing research aspect of market sensing. First, let's look at a definition of marketing research based upon the American Marketing Association. Marketing research is a function that links the consumer, customer, and the public. These are things being outside the organization. So we're linking things outside the organization to the marketer, and we're making that link through information. And so this information will help us to identify and define marketing opportunities and problems. The information will help us generate, refine, and evaluate our marketing actions. This information will help us monitor our marketing performance, and it will also help us to improve our understanding of marketing as a process. So what is the marketing research process? Basically, it decides what information that's going to be required to address our marketing issues. Then it designs a method for collecting that information. Then it manages and implements that data collection process. Then it analyzes the results, and then it communicates the findings with their implications and some recommendations for marketing reasons. Basically, we could classify marketing research into one of two methods, either primary or secondary research. Basically, secondary research is data that already exists that might be helpful to your problem at hand. Be aware though, when you're using data that already exists, you should question its accuracy and make sure you know how it was collected and how it was analyzed, so that you make sure you only use information that has been accurately collected and that is appropriate to your circumstances. The other major type of research is primary research, and this is research that is done for your specific purpose. Things like surveys, focus groups, interviews, observation, and experiments. And we'll talk about those a little bit more. In this class, you will be doing both a primary research project where you will be seeking the information, and a secondary research project where you will be using existing information. You can also classify marketing research as either qualitative or quantitative. And let's do a very simplistic differentiation of those two types of research. Quantitative research is research that is gathered, and it is gathered in such a way that it can be statistically analyzed. It's often numerical data that is analyzed statistically. Qualitative research is data that is gathered that is summarized more subjectively. And oftentimes we will want to do qualitative research before we do quantitative research to get some insight about the topic we're researching, so we can design our quantitative research better. And sometimes we'll want to do qualitative research after our quantitative research so that we can get some insight about the data that we've just obtained. So want to differentiate here between quantitative and qualitative research. Here are some common research methods. First of all, we've discussed secondary research that can either be qualitative or quantitative. And typically it's at very low cost. You can get it very quickly, but it may not be specific enough for your situation at hand. These other types of research are primary research, and they can be quantitative, like surveying, or more qualitative, like a focus group, where you would get together a group of about 8 to 10 or 12 people in your target market and ask them questions to begin exploring your topic at hand before you would do a wide-scale survey or more quantitative research. Another form of qualitative research is an individual interview or observation. The interesting thing about observation is it shows you what people do, but it doesn't really tell you why they do what they do. So again, we're just looking at some different survey methods. Let's look at that marketing research process defined by the American Marketing Association and compare this with the 6-step marketing research plan available from this source that I'm highlighted here at the bottom. And really these two processes are the same. The American Marketing Association says that we specify information required to address marketing issues. That's really the same as defining what it is we want to do or defining the problem that we have so that we can accurately do the remainder of the process. For example, if we were doing a marketing research project on whether or not we should offer food service at our student union, and a major concern was whether or not the addition of some type of food service would change vending machine sales in the area, we would want to make sure that in step 1 we defined part of our problem as determining the effect a food service would have on vending machine sales. Otherwise, we might go through this entire process, interview 1,000 people, and have no real idea of the implication that that would have on vending machine sales. So the first important part is to define what it is we need to know to be able to make our good marketing decision. The second and third steps of the 6-step process are to determine the research design. In other words, are you going to do a focus group? Are you going to do interviewing? Are you going to do observation? Are you going to do a survey? What type of survey? And then to design and prepare that research instrument. The AMA definition kind of combines steps 2 and 3 when they say designs the methods for collecting information. Step 4 then in the AMA definition is to manage and implement the data collection process. And our step 4 is the sampling and data collection process. Number 5 in AMA is to analyze the results. Ours also is to analyze the data. And then the number 6 is to communicate the findings and their implications. And the 6th step is to visually show and communicate the results of our survey. So you can see how this process, even though it has 6 steps, really agrees with the marketing research process as defined from the AMA. Let's talk a little bit more about the stage that we're talking about here in terms of designing and preparing the research instrument. Let's look at some considerations, again, from this source. The first consideration would be to limit open-ended questions. Now, a lot of people think that asking an open-ended question like, how did you select your hospital, allows the respondent to enter in their own words and therefore creates less bias. The problem is that sometimes respondents don't know what you're looking for when you ask an open-ended question. And the second problem is that usually marketing managers don't want to look at 1,000 answers. So what they will do is they'll ask the marketing researcher to summarize all the open-ended questions. So then you have the marketing researcher looking at the people's responses and grouping them together. And so sometimes that involves error, and it might be less accurate than just simply asking a good closed-ended question that is developed after good qualitative or exploratory research. I'm not saying don't use open-ended questions. Sometimes it's very helpful, especially as a follow-up question to a closed-ended or at the end to give you more information. But I'm saying be wary of thinking of them as the least biased and most objective way to ask a question. They also take a lot more time to answer, so respondents don't like doing the questionnaires as much, and it's very hard to collect good data. Don't ask unnecessary questions. Again, the shorter the questionnaire, the better. So while it might be nice to know, is it something you really need to know to solve the problem at hand? Make sure that any multiple choice questions you have together mutually exclude all possible answers. Let's look at this one for example. What did you eat for breakfast? Pancakes, waffles, and omelets. Is it possible that they ate both pancakes and waffles? So these categories don't mutually exclude each other, unless of course they're allowed to choose more than one answer. Now if you look at the second one, was your breakfast completely vegetarian, not vegetarian, or there is no answer that you can give? In that way, they can only answer one way, so they're mutually exclusive. Another thing is that your choices should be collectively exhaustive. Let's look at this one. What's your age? Well, this doesn't collectively, they don't exhaust all possible options. What if you're 50? What if you're 60? How do you answer? And the other thing is, look, what if you're 20? Which of these two do you check? What if you're 30? Which of these two do you check? So this one should probably read 0 to 19, this one 20 to 29, and this one 30 to 40 or 39, and then add additional categories. Keep your questions simple. Use everyday terminology. Use consistent scales. Don't use a 5-point scale in one question and a 10-point scale in another. Allow an option for not sure or neutral. If the person doesn't know, if you're forcing them to answer and they really don't know, you're forcing them to give a wrong answer. Avoid leading questions. Look at this one. Would you agree that our customer service is excellent? Well, that's leading them to believe that it is excellent. So that would be, it would be more appropriate to ask them, how would they rate their customer service, and then give them some options. Avoid what we call double-barreled question. Look at this one. How is the taste and appearance of our pancakes? What happens if the taste is good but the appearance is bad? Or vice versa? How do they answer? It's better to split those out into two categories. Another good thing is to randomize the order in which multiple choice questions are answered, the order in which the answers are given. And that eliminates what we call order bias, the tendency to pick the first one or the second one or third one if there might be such tendencies. So I think you can see that designing a research instrument is more complicated than you might have originally thought. The next thing to consider is how will you design your sample? Do you really need to talk to everyone out there who might be a potential customer, or can you get by with a sample? Now, yes, while you might want to talk to everyone, it just usually doesn't make sense in terms of time and cost. Just like when you go to the doctor, they don't draw out all your blood or listen to your heart forever. They take a sampling of that. So let's say we were wanting to do a survey of students to find out whether they would use a food service. And it might be that we want to make sure we have different groups of students represented, day and evening students and male and female students because we think their usage of some type of food service might be different. So one thing that we would have to consider is, do we need to talk to all the students or might we do a sample? Let's pretend to use a deck of cards to represent all of our students, and that clubs represent the day male students, spades represent the evening male students, hearts represent these students, and diamonds represent these students. The question is, how many cards would we need to draw from a deck to have all students represented? We know at a minimum we would have to draw 4, but I think that's pretty risky because if we only drew 4 cards, would we be sure that we had a representative sample? Probably not. Would we need to draw 40 cards? I don't think so, because there's 13 of each suit, and 13 times 3 suits would be 39. If we drew 40 cards, we would be guaranteed to at least have every group represented. So let's just do a little experiment here where we try this, and bear with me here as we bring up this website. And let's go through our little exercise and see how many we would need to get. So here I have a club, so that represents a day male student. Let's draw another one. I have a heart that represents a day female student. I have a spade that represents an evening male student. By the way, this is totally random, so if we get a diamond here, this is going to be pretty amazing. Oh, we have another heart, so we have another day female student. As you can see, a sample size of 4 would have been too small or not representative of the population. We have another day male student or a club. We have another day male student or a club. Wonder how many you think we'll have to draw. And finally, we have our diamonds. So in actuality, we would have only had to draw 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. To me, I think that would be a little bit small, and I probably wouldn't be comfortable with a sample size of 7. But if we continued to draw cards, I probably should have done this before I maximized the screen, would you have kind of gotten bored with the process? Of course you would, because we already had everybody represented. And that's the point of doing a sample. After a while, you pretty much have everybody in the population represented. Yes, you can always draw a joker, a person out there that's unlike the average population, unless you survey everybody. But for all good purposes, doing a survey where you had these groups represented would be fairly representative. So when you're doing samples, you can do a probability sample where everyone has an equal, known, and non-zero chance of being selected. And if you do that, you can statistically infer or project the results of your survey on the general population. If you don't do a non-probability sample, you cannot statistically infer the results of your sample onto the whole population. Still, non-probability samples are helpful because they give you some insight into the opinions and perspectives of your target market. So we've been looking at this marketing research of defining the problem and the objectives, determining the research design, how you go about doing it, primary or secondary, quantitative or qualitative, surveys or focus groups, designing and preparing the research instrument using some of the guidelines we gave, actually deciding how you're going to sample and then collecting data from that sample, Then at some point you will need to analyze the data and then communicate the results. Now keep in mind there's a big difference between data, which we have listed here, raw data, and analyzed data where we can show visually and easily communicate the results to marketers so that they can know whether we should open a food service or not, what we should serve, what the hours of operation should be, what people are willing to pay, and what the market potential is for such a facility. Later this semester, you're going to be doing a couple of projects, and the results or the process of those projects is to help you develop and implement a marketing research plan through data collection and conversion, to make marketing decisions that demonstrate an understanding of marketing research, and to design a research process to evaluate current markets. And so you'll be able to access those projects to work on those to help illustrate those concepts.